In today's video, I want to talk about the 11 things that you need to do as a business owner to be considered a super boss. You see, I'm a firm believer that people are a business's greatest asset. You've only got to give considerations to what's the greatest investment that you're ever going to make on a month by month basis to realise that it's probably the salary of the people that you've got working within your business. And I say investment because if you invest well, they will always pay dividends, they will always reward you and the business far beyond the investment that you make. And yet, if you get it wrong, it can be the biggest cost to any business. In fact, it can be the sole cause of a business to subsequently collapse and fail. And a lot of that comes down to you and not only who you hire, but how you manage that relationship, how you lead the business, and the culture in which you evolve within the business in order that the people do go on to become that great investment that I talk about. So I want to share with you 11 things that you need to consider in order to be a great boss. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not simply 11 things I've made up along the way. This is proven statistics based on surveying over 17,000 employees. Let me quickly share with you how we got this data. Every year there is a list of the top 100 businesses to work for in the world, top 100 companies to be employed by, top 100 companies in the world. And ironically, it's hardly any surprise to be able to see some of the old favourites in the top 10 almost every year. Google have been winners 3-4 times on the trot, followed closely by places like Microsoft, Apple, Walt Disney and the Disney Experience, and numerous others. Like I say, there's a list of 100 companies across the world with whom are ranked as the best places in the world to work. And what one of the universities, De Montfort University, is where I've taken this research from. What one of the universities have chosen to do is to interview, or at least survey, members of the staff of these top 100 companies around the world to understand more about why did they vote as their place as the best place in the world to work. And they surveyed just over 17,000 employees across those 100 top businesses to get a real understanding and flavour with regards to what is it that the employee sees, does, experiences that has determined that it's not just a good place to work or even a great place to work, that they've nominated it as the best place in the world to go to work. And I'd like to share with you those statistics, that research. I'm going to share with you the top 11 reasons as to why someone's voted that their place is the best place in the world to work. And interestingly, from this, you'll be able to make some form of mental comparison with regards to what other people are saying about alternative places to work and what people might be saying about you and your place of work. Now, interestingly enough, when you look at this list, and I'm going to go through this in quite some detail today, but when you go through this list, you'll find that many of this doesn't cost money. Many of this has got nothing to do with how much you pay them, and you'll see that in a second or two. A lot of this is just about an attitude, a behaviour, a culture, some values as to how it mirrors and marries with what people's personal values and culture is, that has enabled them to be able to say, this isn't just a good place to work, this isn't just a great place to work, this is the best place in the world to work. So let's get into it. Number one. Now, I'm going to go through these in the order in which they voted for them. So the frequency of popularity that people said this was one of the main reasons as to why they voted for their place to be amongst the best in the world. So these are in order of priority, in order of, not seniority, but in order of frequency in which more than 17,000 employees voted that this was the reason as to why they believe that they're in the right place. So give due considerations to, can you do a few of these, and the higher up the list they are, the more important it was to those employees that voted. So number one, the most popular thing that people said was the reason why that they felt that where they work is the most important place in the world to work was flexible working. Simply understanding that whilst you've got a contracted salaried job and it says on your contract 35, 37, 40 hours a week, whatever it is that they're contracted to, then in actual fact that there are 168 hours in a week, and sometimes it's not always possible, or it's not always convenient or easy or acceptable to do a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday every day of the week. Sometimes there is a need to be able to come in late or go home early, to be able to do a 4-day week and have a 5th day off if required. Some flexibility with regards to what the business can enable them to be able to do, in order that it recognises that whilst they're contracted to, let's say, 35, 37.5 hours a week, which is the typical standard contract in the UK for a full-time employee, that in actual fact that's just a percentage of the 168 hours that there are out there, and that people worked to live and not live to work in this country. Understanding that, being able to come in an hour late rather than having to put half a day's leave pass in to be able to go to the dentist, being able to leave an hour early to be able to go and watch their child's first school play and make up the time at some other stage. I'm not saying gift people time off. I'm simply saying the first and most popular reason why people believed that they worked in the most important and best place in the world to work was the fact that the employer recognised the need to be able to offer some flexibility in their working conditions. So I wonder as to what you could do with regards to some form of flexibility to be able to show that we appreciate that whilst they work with us and for the business, that there is a life to have as well, and that we work to live and not live to work. And coupled very closely with that is the second most popular reason. And that was simply that it's a family-friendly environment. That it's okay to have a photograph of your kids on your desk. It's all right to be able to nip off to go and do parents' evening. Sometimes some of the top employees in the world have got bring your child to work day once a year. It might be that you don't have kids, but you're a mad dog lover and there is a permissions to be able to have your dog sat under your desk. I'm not suggesting that all of these things are possible in your business right now, but the second most popular reason why people voted it as the best place in the world to work is it was a family-friendly environment. We recognise family values. We recognise the importance of family. There was this family-style culture within the business where people were friendly and supportive of each other as opposed to competitive and each other's backs. So the second most popular reason below flexible working is a family-friendly environment or a pet-friendly environment, a recognition that we've got a life outside of work, and in order to be able to do our best work, we've got to have this collaboration between what is work and what is life, and some form of merger, some form of mix that allows us to be able to combine the two together as and when it's convenient and safe to be able to do so. Third most popular voted reason. The employee have created a creative and fun environment in which to work. We're not clock watchers. We're able to be able to enjoy what we do. We've created an environment where fun and excitement and enjoyment is encouraged as opposed to scorned upon. We like to hear laughter. We like to hear conversation. We like to be able to see people happy in what they do, as opposed to this rigid, head down, stuck to a computer. We've all seen the old corporate films of the 1980s and 1990s where people were already in tiny little cubicles and just forced to work at the desk. It's just not a conducive environment to be able to get the very best out of employees. So, we've seen the ideas with regards to Google having a slide to go from one floor to another and a ping pong table in the corner. And I'm not saying that all of this is possible within your place of employment, but creating a fun culture, creating some enjoyment of being in work, as opposed to simply there to do the work, does actually enable more work to get done. So the third most popular reason was a creative and fun culture in which people were able to come and express themselves whilst doing work. Number 4, in our top 11 reasons why people voted this as the most important and best place in the world to work. That the employer recognises personal development as well as professional development. There's a wonderful story about a Google employee, not even a senior member of staff, but a Google analyst that sat typing at a desk, being funded by Google to be able to go in work time and take some time out to go and learn how to windsurf as a bonus for having done some good work, because that's what his desire was. That's what he wanted to be able to do. He submitted a wish list of things that he'd love to be able to achieve, and along those professional qualifications that he was looking to aspire to, there was also some personal stuff that he'd love to be able to do. And I certainly remember years ago when my previous business, my first business, we recognised that our office manager was tied to public transport, to the needs to be able to catch a bus. She couldn't drive. And yet there was a car at home that her husband drove, that was owned by the family, but if ever she needed to be able to go out, if she needed to do the big shop, she had to rely on her husband to be able to drive the car. And we provided her with driving lessons. Not only did we pay for the lessons, but we ensured that the lessons were taken during work time, and she left her desk and went off an hour a week to go and have some driving lessons. And for the cost of 15, 20 quid a week, we didn't give her a driving lesson. We didn't give her a driving license. We gave her freedom. We gave her the opportunity to be able to get in her own car and access the roads and the freedom that it gave as and when she wanted to be able to do so. And just that little investment, just that little bit of giving something back, just something about understanding them as opposed to simply what they do for us, is what got more than 17,000 people to vote that the fourth most important thing for them when considering their employer as the best in the world was that they were willing to be able to invest in them personally as well as in them professionally. Personal and professional development. Now, number 5, I really like this one. I think this is brilliant, because the 5th most commonly voted reason as to why they believe that their employee was the best in the world was that they didn't suffer fools easily. It was very evident that where HR or personnel or the management had got it wrong, that they came through and said, we've got it wrong. They held their hands up and said, do you know what? This is not working. They were willing to accept that if they'd taken somebody on and put them into a role and it wasn't working, that the cultural difference that it was creating, there was some diversity, that there wasn't a good mesh, that they were quick to fire and apologise for having made the error. They didn't suffer fools easily. They weren't willing to be able to put up with slack work, but they also admitted and came clean and said, you know what, we're only human here and we've got it wrong. The 5th most popular reason why people said that where I'm working is a great place to work is simply by acknowledging that the management turned round and were willing to be able to hold their hands up when they got it wrong, and they didn't suffer fools or idiots. They didn't put up with foolish behaviour. They were all driven towards a goal and were willing to be able to say, do you know what, if you're not with us, then you're against us and it's time to leave. There's no passengers on this bus. We've all got to be helping to drive it forward. We're not looking here to carry people. So, number 6. We get in there quickly. Number 6 in our 11 top reasons as to why you could become voted Boss of the Year, Super Boss, and create the most exceptional environment in which people want to come and work. The 6th most popular reason was that you reward great customer service. You acknowledge what good customer service is, and we all strive to be able to deliver a good customer service environment, but you recognise and reward, and that doesn't have to be financial. Doesn't have to be financial. Read the book 5 Love Languages, or 5 Love Languages for Work, if you want to understand how it doesn't have to be financial in order to be able to provide reward. But the employer was willing to recognise and reward great customer service. Let's face it, we're all in business to be able to service our customers and clients. And we all expect a certain level of customer service to be delivered each and every day. But they recognised the importance of good customer service, the value of a customer or client to our business, and went out of their way to recognise where employees are gone above and beyond, forward-thinking, proactive, and provided exceptional customer service, where they'd overstepped the mark, under-promised, and then massively over-delivered. And the employee was recognised for that each and every time that they did so. The 6th most popular reason as to why people believe that they work in the best place to work in the world is by being recognised for their efforts when their efforts were seen as supporting their client and their customer. So, number 7 in our top 11 reasons. The employer was willing to show a genuine interest in them and not just the work that they do. Now this reminds me of having been a soldier in the army and worked under the command of, at the time, Lieutenant Colonel Jeremy Rowan, who went on to become 3-star General, Major General Rowan. But at the time he was my commanding officer. Now there were hundreds of people in the regiment. But the commanding officer, Jeremy Rowan, took it upon himself to be able to get to know each and every soldier in his regiment. Not just by their flash and their surname and the last 3 digits of their service number, but he knew you. He knew who you were. He knew your first name. If you were married, he knew if you were married. Probably knew your wife's name. If you had kids, he remembered that you got kids. He might not have remembered the names and ages, but there were hundreds of employees that worked for him, and yet he took the time and effort to be able to get to know each and every one of you personally, in order that when he commanded his regiment, when he volunteered us, and we were voluntold that we were going on operational commitments, that we were all ready to be able to pack up and follow him to wherever it is that we went, to be able to kiss goodbyes to wife, family, kids and the likes, and to be able to jump on a truck and jump onto a plane in Brize Norton and deliver what it was that his vision of was delivering. And that was all about the fact that he took a genuine interest in us as human beings and not in just bums on seats that were doing a job for him. So the 7th most popular reason is to have a genuine interest in our employees as people and not simply in that they work that they do for us in a business. Now 8, I love this one, and I'm really quite surprised that it's only made it to number 8 and not further up in the charts, as it were. But the 8th most popular reason was that the business had a really inspiring mission statement that we were working towards. It wasn't just about cash in the bank for the shareholders and venture capitalists that have funded the business. That there was a really inspiring mission that everyone could get behind. They had a big goal. They had some big aspirations of what they wanted to achieve in the world. And everyone that was working in the business not only understood their role within the business, but how their role contributed towards that great mission statement. So what is it that you're trying to achieve? What big, fat, hairy, audacious goal have you set within your business? And if you don't know what one of those is, then read the blog on beef fags and how to write them. But what is your mission statement? What is it that you're out there to try and do? Are all your employees, are all of the team aware of that? Do they understand that the contribution that they're making towards that, and what will it look like once it's been achieved? So having a really inspiring, a big positive mission in order that we're all trying to contribute towards is a huge driver for people to be able to understand that I'm part of something special, as opposed to simply I'm here to draw a salary. Number 9, and this comes back to the individual again, that the employer was willing to listen and not simply being heard. That the employee was able to tell them things, that there was this open door policy, that they were able to share thoughts and ideas and aspirations, as well as concerns and fears and uncertainties, and that they genuinely believed that they were being listened to and considered, that they were a part of the mission, that they were able to contribute towards things. And it wasn't simply a case of sit down, shut up and do your job. There was this very open policy about things, that we're all in this together and we're all working collaboratively towards that great mission statement. So the 9th most popular reason, people said, I feel listened to, I feel valued, I feel as though my contribution matters, as opposed to simply being a cog in a wheel. Number 10, in the 11 top reasons why people voted that their place was the best place in the world to work. The 10th most popular reason is that they said the employer has a great incentives program. They offer, beyond the salary, they offer some incentives to be able to do more. That's about bonuses, that's about added benefits, that the whole person is looked after. It might be gym membership or pension plan. It might be a death in service program. It might be a company car or an IT laptop, a decent laptop and a phone that you're allowed to be able to use outside of work as opposed to just in work. It might be a childcare vouchers to be able to look after your kids. It might be a healthy diet plan that is available at work. It might be having a manicurist or pedicurist come to the office, or a barber or physiotherapy on site, or a massage once a month. I don't know what it is that you and your employees comes to the conclusion is right for you, but to have a great incentives program that says, but I want to contribute more than my job description determines because of all of these other things that are available to me. And they're the top 10 reasons in the order of priority in which people voted for these, and there were 17,000 plus people who completed the survey. They're the top 10 reasons in the order of priority of which they deemed them important as to why more than 17,000 people voted that their place was amongst the best places in the world to work. Now what you'll notice is something that is significantly missing, because I did promise you today that we're going to offer 11 of the top reasons. And the 11th most popular reason was that they pay a decent salary. They didn't even use the words they pay a bloody good salary. They said they pay a decent salary. Now there's 2 things to note here. First of all, it's not in the top 10. There are 10 things that an employee considers more valuable than simply cash in the bank. Now don't get me wrong, De Montfort University, who conducted this survey, did say that there is a caveat that the salary has to be enough. Now I'm not quite sure what enough is, and we can talk about that very briefly in a second or two, but the 11th reason, not 1 or 2 or 3 or even 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, but the 11th most popular answer was that they pay a decent salary. That's not they pay top book. That's at least they're in the percentiles of comparability with their role elsewhere. It wasn't about the money that drew them to the job, and it certainly isn't about the money that keeps them in the job and voting for it as being the best place in the world to work. And as long as the salary was enough, then there were 10 more things that were far more important to them than their pay packet. Now, just to quickly quantify, what does enough mean? Well, enough varies from month to month, from year to year, from person to person. Let me give you a quick example. If I've chosen that next year I'd like to buy a new home and I'm going to need a 15-20% deposit to be able to get a good mortgage or a good rate on my mortgage, and at the moment the equity in my current property only deems that I've got 12%, and I need to be able to put an extra 8, 9, 10, 15,000 pound deposit down to be able to get down to that 20% that I need as a deposit, then in actual fact my salary this year is going to be exceptionally important to me. Any opportunity of a bonus to be able to bulk out that £20,000 cash that I need is going to be vitally important to me. But let's assume I'm now 2 years in and I've already bought my house and I've settled into it. I've had some decorating done, I've bought some new furniture, and I'm now settled. I might choose to go on holiday. I might need to spend £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 on a decent holiday. But I don't need an extra £20,000 anymore for a deposit on my house because I've already done that. So enough varies from person to person and from year to year, certainly from quarter to quarter, sometimes from month to month, depending on what's important. Interesting enough, one of the studies found that people that said that the bonus scheme, the incentives, the 10th most important one, was that they simply received their January salary a week early. Why would that matter? Well, you know, if you've got Christmas coming up and you've spent a lot of money on family and friends and parties and presents, then it might be that coming to the new year, you're a bit tight. It could possibly be, if you're not very good at managing money, that there's too much month left at the end of the cash, at the end of the money. And just to be able to have an employer that says, do you know what, we recognise that, and we're either going to provide a bonus, and we'll provide it on the 15th of December to help you through that Christmas period and that additional spend that you might choose to make, or that we're going to bring your January salary just a few days forward so you can still enjoy the new year. And yes, it might be that you then struggle at the end of January, but do you know what? January is often frugal for many families if they've enjoyed a really good Christmas. But just that consideration was enough for people to say, this is not just a good place to work, this isn't even a great place to work. This is one of the best places in the world to work. Now, interesting enough, if you look at that list there, at least 8 of those aren't going to cost you a penny if you implement them in your business, or at least give considerations to how do I adapt this to be more suitable to my employees. And yet to do so could take you from being a good employer, past being a great employer, to being a super boss. And that sounds really interesting. Hope you've got something from today. Please leave a comment below and let me know as to what your thoughts are, and look out for some more videos from myself. I'm Jay Allen from My True North. Look forward to it and speak again soon.